Driveway access gone. Posted at my door. 10 a.m. before sunrise, diesel trucks idling while backing into my corner lot as the street stayed clean. Charlene Westbrook, the HOA president, served authority openly and had crews dump toxic snow onto my land, ignoring protests and calling it routine maintenance under her direction. The notice of violation on the board table, official letterhead, typed address and signature visible to everyone present, with printed fines visible. I said, "Not my snow, my land." Finally, someone fought back. The sound wakes me before the cold does. Metal scraping metal. Not the steady glide of a plow passing by, but a slow, grinding drag that stays in one place. It claws at the dark like someone working a blade back and forth. I open my eyes. The clock on the nightstand glows 6:10 a.m. Outside, diesel engines idle low and heavy, patient, in a way that makes my stomach tighten. Grace coughs softly down the hall. "What is that?" she calls. "Wade." "I'm up," I say, already swinging my legs out of bed. The floor is cold enough to sting. I pull on a sweatshirt and move to the kitchen window. The house feels too quiet, like it's holding its breath. I lift the curtain. 3 dump trucks sit where the street bends past my corner lot. They aren't lined up along the road. Their angled inward tires chewing at the snow, reversing toward my driveway. Toward my land. Not the HOA road. Not the private street inside the gate. My land. Behind them, a white Tesla rolls to a stop. It's spotless, even in the storm. The driver's door opens and Charlene Westbrook steps out, clipboard tucked under her arm like an accessory. Grace appears beside me, robe cinched tight, hair flattened on one side. "Oh no," she whispers. "Wade, that's not right." Charlene raises her arm and points. The first truck lifts its bed. A mass of snow slides out thick and heavy, slamming down across the edge of my driveway. It's not clean. It's gray and wet, streaked with sand and dark grit. It spreads fast, oozing into the low spots like something alive. Then the smell hits. Salt. Sharp and chemical. Not the mild bite of winter, but something harsher, industrial. It burns the back of my throat. Grace presses her palm to the glass. "They're dumping it here," she says, disbelief cracking her voice. "On your yard." "They are," I say. The second truck dumps. Then the third. Load after load piles up, climbing the fence line, rolling straight over the rose bed Sarah planted. The garden disappears under the slush, the outlines swallowed whole. Charlene points again, this time directly at that spot. I feel my chest tighten. Grace leans closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Wade, they're burying us." I grab my coat and boots and shove my feet into them, hands clumsy with anger. "Stay inside," I tell her. "I'm coming with you." "No. Please." I step outside before she can argue. The wind slaps me hard, carrying diesel exhaust and the stench of road chemicals. Snow stings my face as I trudge across the driveway, boots sinking, where the pile has already crept forward. "Hey," I shout. "Hey, stop!" One of the drivers glances at me through his side mirror, then looks away. The truck keeps dumping. I march toward Charlene. "What do you think you're doing?" I demand. She turns slowly, smile already in place. "Good morning, Mr. Garrison. This is my property. We're managing storm response efficiently," she says, calm as a brochure. "You're dumping toxic snow on my land." She tilts her head. "We're all in this together." The phrase lands wrong. It always does. This isn't the community, I say. This is my land. Get them off it. She makes a small note on her clipboard and gestures again. Your corner lot is suitable. Suitable for what I snap. For you to poison my yard. She lowers her voice, eyes flicking briefly to the kitchen window, where Grace stands frozen. Please don't escalate this. The final load hits with a wet thud. The pile now seals my garage door, completely rising higher than my hood. Slush presses against the living room window like a gray wall. The trucks pull away without another glance. Charlene slips back into her Tesla and drives off, tires barely disturbing the clean street. Silence follows. Thick, heavy. I stand there staring at what used to be my driveway, what used to be Sarah's roses. The snow isn't white anymore. It's already crusting over, glittering with salt. Nothing will grow there for a long time. The back door opens. Grace steps onto the porch, clutching something in her hand. Wade, she says softly. I turn. She holds up her pill bottle. Empty. The label catches the weak morning light. I need my heart medication today, she says. The pharmacy said they'd deliver. I look from the bottle to the snow wall blocking the driveway. No delivery truck is getting through that. An ambulance wouldn't either. The truth settles in cold and sharp. This isn't snow removal. This is pressure. I walk back inside with her and close the door. The house feels smaller now, boxed in. I'll take care of it, I say, though I don't know how yet. Grace nods, trusting me in a way that makes my throat ache. The mail slot clicks. An envelope slides onto the rug. I pick it up. HOA letterhead. Red stamp across the front. Notice of violation. Inside, the words are neat and cruel. $500 fine for unsightly snow accumulation and failure to maintain driveway access. My hand tightens around the paper. They dumped toxic snow on my land, and now they were charging me for it. The word echoes in my head like a door slamming shut. Received. Click. I read the notice 3 times before the words start to feel real. $500 fine for unsightly snow accumulation. $500 for failure to maintain driveway access. My hands shake as I hold the paper under the kitchen light. The letterhead is crisp, the tone polite in that sharp corporate way that makes cruelty sound like policy. Grace sits at the table with her mug of tea between both palms, watching my face. They did that, she says quietly. They dumped it. Right on your land. I know. My voice comes out flat. They dumped toxic snow on my land, and now they're charging me for it. Outside, the street looks perfect. Clean lines, neat driveways, no mess in front of anyone else's house. Just ours, sealed in gray slush and salt. I pick up the phone and call the HOA number printed at the bottom of the notice. A cheerful recording answers. Thank you for calling Meadowview Estates Homeowners Association. I hang up before it finishes. I'm not leaving a message. Not for Charlene. Grace touches the edge of the paper. What do we do? I stare at the wall of toxic snow pressing against the bottom of the window. The chemical smell still seeps in every time the heat kicks on. We show up, I say. We make them look me in the eye. That night I pay a private snow crew more than I want to admit. They carve a narrow path, not enough to feel normal, but enough for a delivery truck to reach us. Enough for Grace's medication to arrive in the morning. When the pharmacy driver hands me the bag, he looks past my shoulder at the dirty pile and whistles under his breath. Y'all got the short end of it, he says. Yeah, I answer. Seems like it. The board meeting is scheduled for Thursday evening. The location isn't the clubhouse, not the community room, Charlene's house. Her living room smells like expensive perfume and coffee that's been sitting too long. A marble dining table dominates the space like it was built for intimidating people. 4 board members sit around it with folders and pens, acting like we're discussing municipal budgets, instead of the fact that they dumped toxic snow on my land. Charlene looks up when I enter. Her smile arrives before her eyes do. "Mr. Garrison," she says, "thank you for being punctual." Grace stays home. I didn't want her climbing over any remaining ice just to sit through a room full of people who'd call what happened maintenance. I set the notice on the table. "You fined me for toxic snow you dumped on my land." Charlene folds her hands. The notice speaks for itself. "No, it doesn't," I say. "This didn't accumulate. It was delivered. By trucks. Under your direction." One of the board members clears his throat like I'm being impolite. Another avoids my eyes entirely. Charlene's voice stays smooth. "We're all in this together, Mr. Garrison." There it is again. "I'm not in anything with you," I say. "My land is not your storage lot." She slides a document across the table with one manicured finger. "This is the Community Maintenance Agreement. It authorizes seasonal placement in shared areas." I pick it up. My address is typed neatly at the top. My name looks clean and official. Then I see the signature. It's supposed to be mine. It isn't. My stomach drops in a slow, heavy way. I've signed my name the same way for decades. My W loops. My G has a tail. This one is stiff-angled wrong in every stroke. I look up at Charlene. "Where did you get this?" Her smile holds. "It's on file." On file where I ask. Tom Henderson, the only one who has looked uncomfortable since I walked in, shifts in his seat. His eyes flick down to the paper, then back to Charlene like he's doing math he doesn't like. Charlene doesn't answer my question. The agreement is binding. "That's not my signature," I say loud enough that the whole room has to hear it. I turn the paper so the others can see. "Look at it." A woman on the board blinks fast. A man coughs again louder. Charlene's voice cools. "Are you accusing this board of fraud, Mr. Garrison?" "I'm saying someone forged my signature," I reply. "And while we're at it, I'm saying you dumped toxic snow on my land and then fined me for having it there." Tom's jaw tightens. For a second, I think he might speak. Charlene cuts in before he can. "This meeting is becoming unproductive. It's becoming truthful," I say. She snaps her folder shut. Meeting adjourned. Just like that. No vote. No discussion. No acknowledgement that my land had been treated like a dump site. I walk out into the freezing air, with the forged document in my hand, my breath coming hard. The neighborhood is silent windows glowing warm behind curtains. Everyone safe. Everyone clean. Everyone letting it happen. The next afternoon, I'm hauling groceries in from the car when I hear Grace behind me. "Careful," she says. I answer, but the ground is still slick where the toxic snow melted and refroze in patches. My boot hits one of those patches. My foot slides. I catch myself, but Grace steps forward without thinking, reaching to steady me. Her shoe slips. Time slows, ugly and helpless. Grace, she goes down hard on the edge of the cleared path, shoulder first, then her hip. Her breath leaves her in a sharp gasp that turns my blood to ice. "I'm okay," she tries to say, but her voice is thin. I kneel beside her hands, hovering, afraid to move her wrong. "Don't. Just breathe. Just stay still." She winces, eyes squeezed shut. It hurts. I pull my phone and call 911, my thumb shaking so badly I hit the wrong button once. When the dispatcher answers, I give our address and say elderly fall, possible injury. Then I look at the driveway. The ambulance can't get close. Not with the remaining wall. Not with the narrowed path. Not with the toxic snow still packed along the edges like concrete. I feel the outrage rise hot in my chest. They dumped toxic snow on my land. They fined me for it. And now because of it, the woman inside my home can't even get help without a struggle. In the distance, I hear sirens faint searching. I squeeze Grace's hand. "Hold on," I whisper. "Just hold on." The clerk doesn't look at me when she takes the papers. She flips through the stack with practiced fingers, the sound dry and final, then reaches for the stamp. It comes down hard on the top page. Filed. The noise echoes louder than it should in the small county office. I watch the red ink settle into the paper like a verdict. For a second, I expect something to feel resolved. It doesn't. I step back from the counter, clutching copies of everything I could think to bring my deed, the HOA notice, the so-called agreement with the forged signature. Around me, people wait their turn for dog licenses and marriage records, normal problems in a normal world. Outside, my world is still sealed in toxic snow. I sit on a plastic chair and spread the papers across my lap, checking dates, stamps. Anything that proves what my gut already knows. Nothing. There is no record of the agreement Charlene waved at me like a weapon. No filing number. No county seal. No trace it ever existed outside her dining room. The clerk leans over when she sees my face. "Sir," she says, lowering her voice, "if it's not filed here, it's not legally binding." So there's nothing, I say. She shakes her head. Not a thing. Powerlessness hits me in a dull wave. Not relief yet. Just the weight of realizing how easily paper can be invented, how confidently people can lie when they think no one will check. I thank her and walk out into the cold with the stamped copies under my arm. Back home, the smell of toxic snow still lingers around the foundation. The narrow path the private crew cut is already icing over again. Grace sits at the table sorting pills into her weekly organizer, moving slowly, carefully. "How did it go?" she asks. "They never filed anything, I say. That agreement doesn't exist." She nods like she expected that. Then why does it feel like they still get to do whatever they want? I don't have an answer yet. The soil testing kit arrives that afternoon. A plain cardboard box, nothing dramatic. I take samples from the edge of the pile where the slush meets my land, scraping down until I hit dirt that should have smelled like earth. It doesn't. It smells burned. I seal the bags and ship them out, then wait. Waiting is the worst part. It gives the anger too much room to stretch. 2 days later, an email arrives with the lab results attached. I open the file at the kitchen table while Grace watches my face. The numbers don't mean much to me at first. Then the notes section jumps out. Sodium chloride, magnesium chloride, calcium chloride. Commercial-grade de-icing compounds. Not approved for residential disposal. I read it twice. They used industrial chemicals, I say. This stuff's illegal to dump on private residential land. Grace exhales slowly. So it's not just snow. No, I reply. It never was. I make one more call before the day ends. Jerry Patterson answers on the second ring. "Wade," he says. "I heard about the fall. How's Grace bruised?" I say. "Shaken, still standing." "Good. What's going on?" I explain everything. The dumping, the fine, the forged agreement, the soil test. There's a pause on the line. Not uncertainty, but calculation. Wade Jerry says HOA rules don't override trespass law, so they can't. They can't dump anything on your land without permission, he cuts in. Toxic snow debris, anything. That's criminal trespass. The chemicals make it worse. My grip tightens on the phone. And the fine meaningless, he says. They created the condition, then punished you for it. That doesn't hold. I look out the window at the gray wall pressing against my house. So what are they actually doing, breaking the law? Jerry replies. Repeatedly. The words land heavier than I expect. Not petty, not rude, not overzealous. Illegal. I thank him and hang up, my heart pounding harder now, not from fear, but from something sharper. Clarity. Grace reaches across the table and covers my hand. You look different, she says. I feel different, I answer. They're not just bullying us. They're trespassing on my land. For the first time since the trucks rolled in, the situation shifts in my head. The anger is still there, but it's focused now, pointed in a direction that matters. Paper matters. Records matter. And they don't have them. That night, the weather alert buzzes on my phone while I'm rinsing a coffee mug. Winter storm warning. Heavy snowfall expected overnight. I stare at the screen, then at the pile outside, already hardened into place. If another storm hits and they dump again, they won't just be pressing me. They'll be adding to their own evidence. I set the phone down and look at Grace. There's another storm coming, I say. She nods once. Then they'll do it again. Yes, I say quietly. And this time I'll be ready. The second dumping starts after midnight. I don't hear the trucks this time. I smell them. A sharp chemical bite seeps into the house stronger than before, like someone cracked open a drum of solvent outside the walls. It crawls down the hallway and wakes me from a shallow sleep. I'm at the window in seconds. 3 trucks again, but these are different. The logos on the doors aren't the local snow service. These are commercial haulers, the kind you see clearing shopping centers and warehouse lots. Their beds are darker stained. What pours out isn't just snow. It's heavier, dirtier, mixed with sand chunks of ice and slush that looks like it's already been used once too often. Toxic snow from somewhere else. From a contract that was never meant for a residential neighborhood. They back straight onto my land and unload like they've done it 100 times before. No hesitation, no mistake. Charlene stands near the curb again, her white coat a clean line against the dark. She doesn't even look toward the house this time. She just nods when it's done. By morning, the pile is taller, wider. It presses against the foundation like it's trying to claim the place. The heating oil truck doesn't even try to turn in. I hear the engine idle at the edge of the street, then cut. The driver gets out and walks the distance to the path we carved days earlier. He stops when he sees the new wall. Nope, he says, shaking his head. Can't do it. You can't back up, I ask. He points at the snow. Not through that. Not without getting stuck. And I'm not parking a fuel truck on ice next to a house. Grace stands behind me in the doorway, wrapped in a sweater, arms crossed tight. How long until the tank runs out, she asks. I check the gauge. Day. Maybe 2. The driver gives me a look that says he's sorry and climbs back into his cab. The truck pulls away, leaving clean pavement behind it like a quiet insult. Inside the house starts to feel colder by the hour. We turn the thermostat down and close off the spare room. Grace keeps her coat on. I keep checking the windows, the pile, the street, looking for someone to come undo what they did. No one does. That afternoon, the envelope arrives. Not a notice this time. Not a fine. A contract. I open it at the table while Grace reads over my shoulder. The language is neat professional wrapped in phrases like mutual benefit and community efficiency. Snow Depot lease agreement. They want to lease part of my land for $50 a year. $50 to turn my property into a permanent dumping site. The terms make my jaw clench. Year-round access, seasonal materials, snow, sand, salt, debris, no liability for environmental damage. They're not hiding it anymore. They're planning to make it permanent. They want to buy your silence, Grace says softly. They want to buy my land without buying it, I reply. I flip to the diagram attached to the contract. A neat little square marked off right where Sarah's roses used to grow. Grace sees it at the same time I do. Her hand comes to her mouth. That's my therapy garden, she says. The words are quiet, but they hit harder than anything else has so far. The doctor said working the soil would help my arthritis. That's where I was going to plant. I look at the diagram again. The box might as well be a scar. They're not taking it, I say. Grace shakes her head slowly. They already are. The house drops another degree as the sun sets. I start the space heater in the living room and drag blankets in from the closet. The hum fills the room thin and desperate. I sit at the desk after she goes to bed, surrounded by papers that all say the same thing in different ways. They think my land belongs to them. I pull out everything I have: deed notices, lab results, the forged agreement. I need something solid. Something that isn't just anger and proof of harm. That's when I find it. The old subdivision packet, yellowed and folded, tucked into the back of a file from when Sarah and I bought the house. I almost skip it. Almost. The map inside is dated 1987. I spread it out and trace the lines with my finger. Houses. Private streets. The gate at the entrance. Then I notice something that makes me lean closer. A thin strip marked differently than the rest. An access line that doesn't run through the HOA roads. It cuts across my lot. I stare at it, then pull the deed and lay it beside the map. The boundaries line up too cleanly to be coincidence. My land isn't just a corner lot. It's part of the way in. And maybe, just maybe, the only way out. I sit back in the chair, the hum of the heater filling the silence, the weight of the day pressing down on me. They doubled down on my land. They tried to turn it into a dump forever. But for the first time since this started, I'm holding something that might change the math entirely. The surveyor's tripod sinks an inch into the frozen soil when he sets it down. Ground's still soft under the crust, he says, adjusting the legs. Means it's been disturbed. A lot. I watch the red laser blink to life and stretch across my yard, cutting clean lines through the mess the HOA left behind. Toxic snow still clings to the edges of my land, gray and compacted, like it's waiting to be told what to do next. Mike Torres squints through his scope and then looks at the plat map spread across the hood of his truck. You sure this is the right parcel, he asks. It's my land, I say. Been mine since '98. He nods, but his eyes don't leave the map. That's what I'm checking. Grace watches from the porch, wrapped in her coat hands tucked into the sleeves. The heater inside is running non-stop now, but the cold still finds its way into the bones of the house. Mike calls out numbers, marking points with small orange flags. Each one lands with quiet authority, like a fact being pinned down. Here, he says, finally pointing to a line that runs along the edge of the toxic pile. This boundary isn't just a boundary. I step closer. What do you mean? He taps the paper. This is an access easement. I feel my pulse pick up. Access to what? To everything, he replies. Every private street inside Meadowview Estates. I stare at him. Through my land, he looks up, meeting my eyes now. Exclusively through your land. The words don't settle right away. They bounce around, looking for somewhere to land. That can't be right, I say. They have a gate, roads, signs. Owned by the HOA, Mike says, but not connected to the public road system except here. He traces the line again, slow, deliberate. This easement grants them passage, not ownership. Passage. Grace steps closer, her boots crunching lightly on the crusted snow. So they have to cross your land, she says. Yes, Mike replies. Every time they leave, every time they come home. Deliveries, emergency services. Everyone. The air feels thinner. I pull my phone out and call Jerry. He answers on the first ring. What did the surveyor say? That there's an exclusive access easement across my land, I say. Is that possible? Jerry doesn't hesitate. Very. So what does it mean? It means the HOA can use your land to access their streets, he says, but only under the terms of the easement. And those terms are good faith, Jerry replies. Mutual benefit. No abuse. I look at the toxic snow piled against my foundation, at the forged agreement, at the fine. They dumped toxic snow on my land, I say. On purpose. That's not good faith, Jerry says. That's trespass. So they don't get to cross your land if they're violating the agreement, he finishes. They broke it first. My heart starts to pound hard enough that I have to sit down on the porch step. Say it plainly, I tell him. Jerry exhales. Wade, the HOA only gets to cross your land if they behave. If they don't, you can revoke access. Grace's hand grips the railing. What happens if I do, I ask. Then they're landlocked, Jerry says, until it's resolved legally. I end the call and look back at Mike. He nods slowly, like he's been waiting for me to catch up. You're the gatekeeper, he says, whether you wanted to be or not. The word hits me square in the chest. Gatekeeper. I stand and walk to the edge of my land, where the easement line cuts cleanly through the toxic mess. I picture every neighbor I've waved to over the years, every delivery truck, every ambulance that's ever come through. All of it runs through here. The realization settles heavy and clear. I controlled the only way out of this community, not because I asked to, not because I planned it, because it was written that way decades ago and no one ever thought the quiet guy on the corner would need to read the fine print. Mike finishes his measurements and packs up his gear. You want the official report, he asks. Yes, I say. I want everything. Grace looks at me, searching my face. What are you thinking? I look at the toxic snow again, the way it presses against my home like a threat that thinks it's permanent. They dumped toxic snow on my land, I say. They used it to trap us. She nods slowly. Then I'm going to use it to make a point. The wind picks up, carrying the smell of chemicals again. My phone buzzes in my pocket. Another weather alert. Major winter storm expected overnight. Heavy accumulation likely. I read it twice. They're going to dump again. I can feel it. They always push when they think you're weak. I turn to Grace. If they bring more toxic snow, I say I won't fight it. She studies me for a long moment, then gives a small, steady nod. Where will you put it? I look down the easement line straight toward the gate. Right where it belongs, I say. On the only way out. The letter arrives just after lunch, slid halfway under the door like it doesn't want to be seen. Cream-colored paper, heavy stock, a downtown return address printed clean and confident. I don't open it right away. Grace watches me from the couch, her blanket pulled up to her shoulders. "That from the HOA again?" she asks. "Worse," I say, reading the letterhead. They want it to look worse. I tear it open and scan the first paragraph. Threats dressed up as concern. Legal language stacked high enough to intimidate anyone who hasn't spent years reading fine print. Demands to remove obstructions, warnings about liability, a deadline measured in hours, not days. At the bottom, a signature from a law firm I recognize. That's what makes my jaw lock. I dial the number on the firm's actual website, not the one printed on the page. A receptionist answers, polite and bored. "I received a letter claiming to be from your office," I tell her. "HOA dispute." There's a pause. Typing. "Sir," she says slowly, "we don't represent any HOAs in your area." I read her the reference number. Another pause. Longer. "That format isn't ours," she says. "Could you email us a copy?" I hang up and stare at the paper in my hand. They didn't just dump toxic snow on my land. They forged authority. Grace looks at my face and doesn't ask any more questions. She doesn't need to. "That's illegal," she says. "Yes," I answer. "And they just made it easier." I spend the afternoon turning preparation into motion. Cameras go up first. One over the garage. One angled toward the fence line. One covering the driveway and the easement. Small red lights blink on steady and patient. I drive steel posts into the frozen ground. Along the exact boundary, Mike marked each one sunk deep and flagged bright. The chain between them hangs clean and unmistakable. My land, clearly marked. The excavator arrives just before sunset, dropped off by a guy who asks no questions and gives me a look that says he's seen this kind of thing before. I park it where I can see it from the kitchen window. Grace stands beside me, arms folded. "You're sure about this?" she asks. "I'm sure about the law," I say, "and I'm sure about what they'll do next." The storm rolls in right on schedule. By 9 o'clock, snow is falling thick and fast, the kind that muffles sound and makes everything feel smaller. The streetlights glow like halos in the dark. At 11, headlights cut through the curtain of snow. 3 trucks, then 4, then a 5th. Behind them, a white Tesla idles, hazard lights blinking. Charlene steps out like she owns the night. I hit record on my phone and watch through the window as she walks the line of trucks, pointing, talking, directing traffic like a conductor. The first load hits my land with a wet, heavy crash. Not just snow, sand, salt chunks of ice that thud like broken concrete. The smell is stronger than ever, a sharp chemical sting that forces me to crack the window just enough to confirm what my nose already knows. This isn't residential snow. This is commercial waste. Grace appears behind me, silent. I don't turn around. I don't want her to see all of it. They keep dumping, load after load, piling higher, pressing closer to the house. The wall climbs past the windows, swallowing the fence, creeping toward the siding like it's claiming ground. I zoom in on Charlene as she points directly at the garden area, the spot that's already dead under the first wave of toxic snow. Her mouth forms words I can't hear, but the gesture is unmistakable. This is deliberate. One of the drivers hesitates, glancing toward the house. Charlene snaps her fingers and points again. The truck bed lifts. More toxic snow pours out. By 2 in the morning, the pile towers over everything, a jagged, filthy mountain, blocking every view of the street. I step outside briefly, just long enough to record the height against the porch post. 22 feet. It seals my land like a sentence. The trucks pull away at last, taillights fading into the storm. Charlene lingers a moment longer, taking pictures with her phone, then slips back into her car and disappears. The night goes quiet again. I stand alone in the yard, the wind cutting through my coat, the chemical smell burning my sinuses. The pile looms in front of me, ugly and absolute. They gave me everything. Every ounce of toxic snow they dumped is now on my land. Every violation documented, every boundary marked, every threat recorded. I turn and look at the excavator, its dark shape waiting patiently under the porch light. The thought settles in, calm and heavy. They just gave me all the leverage I need. Inside, Grace sits at the table, hands wrapped around a mug she hasn't touched. "They did it again," she says. "Yes," I reply. "Worse." She looks at me, eyes steady. "What happens now?" I glance at the clock. 4:42 a.m. The sky is already lightening at the edges, gray bleeding into black. Now I say we wait for daylight. Outside, the storm starts to ease like it knows its part is done. Dawn is coming. And when it does, the only way out is going to matter more than Charlene ever imagined. At 6:00 a.m., the excavator roars to life. The sound cuts through the quiet like a starting gun diesel steel purpose. Porch lights flick on across the street. Curtains move. Doors open just a crack. I climb into the cab and settle my hands on the controls. The machine hums beneath me, steady and obedient. 30 years around heavy equipment teaches you the difference between noise and intent. This is intent. Grace stands at the window, coffee in her hands, watching. She doesn't wave. She doesn't need to. I angle the blade and take the first bite. The toxic snow breaks loose with a wet, grinding sound, salt, sand, chemical slush, all moving as one heavy mass. I don't rush it. I push slow and controlled straight along the easement line that runs across my land. Toward the gate. Toward the only way out. By 6:20, the wall is visible from the street. 6 feet high. Solid. Unmistakable. The first car pulls up and stops short. A pickup behind it. Then a sedan. Then another. Engines idle. Doors open. People step out, staring at the barrier like it's a mistake that hasn't finished loading. Frank Rodriguez is the first to walk forward. He squints, then looks at me in the cab. "Wade," he calls out. "What's going on?" I cut the engine and climb down. "Morning, Frank," I say. "Just moving what was dumped on my land." He looks past me at the snow wall. We can't get through. I know. More neighbors gather. Phones come out. Someone mutters about work. Someone else mentions a doctor's appointment. A woman with a toddler on her hip looks close to tears. By 6:45, there are dozens of people standing in the street. 47 families. All trapped. The white Tesla arrives late, sliding to a stop sideways. Charlene steps out. Fury written clean across her face. "What do you think you're doing?" she shouts, marching toward me. "Returning property," I say calmly. "You dumped toxic snow on my land. I relocated it. You can't block community access," she snaps. "This is illegal." Before I can answer, sirens cut in. The fire department rolls up, first 2 trucks, lights flashing, engines rumbling. Captain Rodriguez steps out and surveys the scene. He walks the length of the barrier, then checks the steel posts marking my boundary. "Who owns this land?" he asks. "I do," I say. "Surveyed and marked." Charlene jumps in. He's endangering residents. The captain turns to her. Ma'am, this is private property. He's allowed to use it. She sputters. But our roads are private too, he finishes. And they're accessed through his land. If there's a dispute that's civil, not ours. The crowd murmurs. Phones rise higher. A news van pulls up just after 7. The reporter approaches microphone already out. Sir, can you explain what's happening? I look at the camera. At the neighbors. At Charlene, red-faced and cornered. They dumped toxic snow on my land, I say. Now they're trapped behind it. The words hang there clean and undeniable. By 8, the pressure breaks. The HOA board members arrive one by one, their confidence gone. They huddle near the gate, whispering, glancing at the camera, at the fire trucks, at the growing line of stalled cars. An attorney finally steps forward, hands raised in surrender. We need access restored immediately, he says. What will it take? Remove every load of toxic snow from my land, I reply. Pay for the damage. And put it in writing that this never happens again. Charlene glares at him. We're not paying him. The attorney doesn't look at her. You already are. Checks start getting written, calls get made. A second snow crew is dispatched not to dump, but to remove. By late morning, the wall comes down under supervision. Not mine, theirs. The community breathes again. Charlene doesn't speak to me as she leaves. She doesn't have to. Her authority cracked the moment the gate closed. Grace steps outside when it's over. The sun is higher now, bright against clean air. You did it, she says. No, I reply, watching the last truck pull away. They did. I controlled the only way out. And for the first time, they understood exactly what that meant. The check is heavier than it should be. Not because of the paper, because of what it represents. Charlene doesn't hand it to me. She's nowhere near the table when the final settlement gets signed. The remaining board members sit in a stiff line at the clubhouse, eyes tired, voices, careful as if the wrong sentence could spark another storm. Tom Henderson clears his throat and slides the envelope across to me with both hands. Mr. Garrison, he says, this covers the remediation, the repairs, and your legal fees. I open it without ceremony, a cashier's check. The amount is printed cleanly across the center, far more than the fines she tried to squeeze out of me. Enough to undo damage that should never have happened. Grace sits beside me, shoulders straight, her good hand resting on the table. I look up, and the terms. Tom nods toward the attorney, who opens a binder like he's trying to appear calm. The agreement includes a permanent prohibition, the attorney says. No dumping, storing, or placement of any snow de-icing, waste debris, or maintenance materials on your land. Ever. My land, I repeat, making him say it with me. Your land, he confirms. He turns a page. It also includes a revised easement clause. Access remains, but any future violation triggers immediate legal consequences. Grace's eyes flick to me, and I can tell she wants to hear it plain. The attorney gives it to her. They cross his land only if they act in good faith. I don't smile. I just nod slow. That phrase, good faith, used to feel like something people said to sound decent. Now it's a line in black ink that holds weight. And Charlene, I ask. Tom's face tightens as if he's chewing something bitter. She's been removed from all HOA positions, he says, effective immediately. The room shifts at that. A quiet relief passes through the remaining board members, like air returning to a sealed house. The attorney adds, there are ongoing investigations regarding document fraud. I don't ask for details. The community doesn't need my help cleaning up that mess. They did enough damage on their own. I sign where I'm supposed to sign, then stand. The meeting ends fast after that. No small talk. No pretending we're neighbors exchanging recipes. Just people trying to move past what happened. Outside, the air is cold and bright. The gate sits open. Cars pass through like nothing ever changed. But everything changed. A week later, the remediation crew arrives. They cut into the toxic snow line the way a surgeon cuts into rot. They scrape away contaminated soil, haul it off in sealed loads, and replace it with clean earth. The smell shifts day by day from chemical burn to damp dirt to something almost familiar. Grace watches from a folding chair in the sun, bundled up but smiling, more than I've seen in months. "Looks like a battlefield," she says the first morning. "It is," I reply, staring at the torn-up strip where Sarah's roses used to be. Grace reaches for my hand. "Then we'll rebuild." When the last truck leaves, the ground looks bare and raw, an open wound. But it's clean. It's ours again. We don't plant roses right away. Not at first. Grace starts with something simpler. A small row of pansies in early spring. A few hardy herbs she can tend without bending too long. She works slowly, careful of her bruised ribs, talking to the soil like it's a stubborn friend. One afternoon she pauses, wipes her hands on her jeans, and looks up at me. "I can breathe again," she says. I nod. Me too. By May, green returns to that strip of land. Not because it's time, but because we fought for it. The garden doesn't look like it did when Sarah was here, but it's alive. It's healing in the only way a place can. On the first Saturday of June, we set up chairs at the community center. Not for another board meeting. Not for another fight. For a workshop. A dozen neighbors show up at first. Then 20. Then more, filling the room with the soft sound of folding chairs and nervous conversation. I stand at the front with a stack of copies, county filing rules, easement basics, a checklist for documenting violations. Grace sits in the first row, hands folded, watching me like she's proud and daring anyone to disagree. A man in the back raises his hand. "So, if they try to push you around, you don't just take it." "No," I say. "You follow the paper. You follow the law." Someone else asks, "And if they threaten you?" "You document it," I answer. "You don't swing back. You outlast them." A quiet settles over the room, the kind that happens when people realize they're not alone. After the workshop, Frank Rodriguez comes up and claps me on the shoulder. "Wish we'd had this years ago," he says. "So do I." I reply. That evening I find Grace in the garden, kneeling on a cushion, hands deep in the soil. She holds up a rose cutting she ordered from a nursery, hardy red, the kind that survives winters. "You think it'll take?" she asks. I look at the clean earth, at the new growth, at the space Charlene tried to turn into a permanent dump. "It'll take," I say. Grace smiles, slow and steady. "Your Sarah would have liked that." I watch her press the cutting into the ground, gentle as a promise. When she's done, we sit on the porch and listen to the neighborhood settle into its evening sounds, distant lawnmowers, kids on bikes, a dog barking once and then stopping. The gate stands open down the road, just another part of the landscape now. But I know what it means. I controlled the only way out. And the only way forward turned out to be the same thing it always should have been. Respect. I look at the garden and feel my chest loosen for the first time in a long time. Finally, someone fought back lawfully, I say. Grace leans her head against my shoulder. "Yes," she whispers. "And look what grew from it." The gate stood open again, sunlight catching the posted order sealed at the clubhouse while the garden soil, clean and restored, held its first new shoots. The settlement wasn't loud, but it was public signatures, recorded checks cleared, and a permanent notice posted for everyone to read. Justice doesn't need to shout. It needs boundaries that hold. When rules are written clearly and enforced evenly, communities heal instead of fracture. Finally, someone fought back. If this story sounds familiar, share how you protected what was yours lawfully.